So I want to go through, take what we did last week a little bit further. We're going to kind of talk, hopefully last week, and you guys can just give me like a thumbs up. Did everybody get their financial dashboard set up? Yes. Was it shocking? Did you find some things in there you could probably cut out? Yes, I'm seeing those slow nods. So what I want to talk about today is kind of exactly how to go through any of these expenses that were shocking to you, and also how to kind of like my thought process on how you go through and actually think about if you want to go and make a new investment, or if you have an investment that you're not so sure if it's really working. So we're going to do kind of like a keep it or cut it today. I'll give you guys a few minutes to kind of throw some at me at the end, but really wanted to walk you through this have I, can I, will I approach that Chirag taught me a while ago. It's incredibly helpful. And it's actually something I use kind of all the time, not just investment wise, but just in life before I go and make decisions. So let me get my deck up here and we'll get started. Okay. I'm actually in Keynote today. So I was working on it with Chirag. He's a Keynote guy. You guys can see this, and I could probably play it just so it's a little bit better. We're good up here for financial mastery. Okay. So you guys should now know what it costs to run both your business and your personal life, whether you're nauseous from it or not. Like I said last week, if you have not done this yet, go back to last week. You can watch our sessions, download the dashboard, and you can start filling everything out. That way we have really good instructions on there. And then you'll be all caught up to us today. So this is the dashboard. You guys should be familiar with this. You should have all this filled out. And then let's go through. So understanding your ROI on investments. So we kind of break this down. This is not to be confused with the core 4, but it's 4 core areas. So this is pretty much, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would agree, this is where most of your expenses will end up kind of lying. So marketing, branding, lead gen, and coaching. This is where when you kind of go in and break it down, we're going to get into kind of like direct ROI, and just if there's like basically essentially if this is a short-term game or a long-term game investment wise. And I'm gonna go through the deck kind of quickly, and then we're going to head over to the action steps because that's where a lot of this info is. So 3 questions to be asking yourself when you're playing this keep it or cut it game. Have you invested the time to make what you're spending money on work most effectively? So that's like what I always talk about when I say a self-audit, going back and saying, okay, if this investment cost me a couple $1,000, call it $3,000, $4,000, and I didn't really see the conversion I was hoping from that. Let's go back through and see all the different steps that I could have taken to have really maximized the cost there. Can you make the time to make what you're spending money on work most effectively? Do you have the time in your calendar? If you have little kids running around and a partner who really needs you all the time, or you have a million other things to do, and it's not really set, and your business is, let's say, thriving in other areas with your core 4, is this really an expense that makes sense to keep in there right now? And I'll go into a few examples of this, but like if your core 4 is thriving and there's not really a need for those online leads right now, why are we keeping it in? Because if you're not getting the conversion you want on that, it's probably because you haven't done everything you could. You probably don't have the time to do it, and therefore you're not doing it. And that's why the conversion isn't happening. So being very honest with yourself when you're going through these expenses. And then will you? This is probably the hardest question I think we all need to ask ourselves. Same thing with the gym. Have you gone? Maybe not. Can you? Probably. Will you? I don't know. So you have to be very honest with yourself about, are you going to commit to whatever plan you make in that have I and can I? Are you actually going to go in and do it? And a lot of us, if you've been in the business for, even a couple of years, you kind of know your tendencies and you know what you tend to gravitate to. And I think a lot of us are not always honest with what those things that we really like to do are, but we keep those expenses in there to make ourselves feel better. Same thing as the gym. It feels good to see the money come out every month because we say, well, I am paying for it, so it must be doing something. Not really. You kind of need to go, as me in the last 3 days. It's not really going to shut off if I'm not there. So this is how you want to think about it. Does this thought process make sense to everybody? Okay. Eye-opening, kind of like, I think I have an idea of some of the ones I can cut out. Okay. So I'm going to take 2 examples here. These are ones I'm sure Chirag gets all the time. I know I get all the time in coaching. Online leads, lead generation, monthly subscription. Cost is about $3,000 a month. They've gained 50 leads, but no conversions. Have I? When I talk to people, No, I've not followed up with the leads that have come through as much as I should have. They come through, I see this all the time. They come through the email or through the portal, however you have it. They kind of sit there. You maybe follow up with them the next day. Maybe you're great. You followed up with one in like a couple seconds, then they respond, and then you don't, it kind of goes dead. Does this sound familiar to people who've done online leads? Yes. Okay. Can you? Yes. You absolutely could make a time block each day to go through the app and follow up with the leads that come through on a timely basis. Set up an action plan. You can do a lot of that. Will you? And this client of mine said, honestly, I've been saying I would do this for 6 months and somehow something always gets in the way. I don't know if I truly enjoy online leads. Absolutely fine. Take that time block and go do something else for your core 4. Cut it. That's how I would think about that. Let's go through one more. Print ad. Cost is $1,000 a month, no leads gained. They're very frustrated because it's a pretty hefty, whatever. I think there's like 6 months they needed to commit to. No, so have I? No, I've not updated the ad for over 6 months or put much thought into what it looks like at all. Okay, so if it's just a picture of you, and this is a true example, if it's just a picture of you saying you work for Compass, saying you're the modern approach to real estate and you're the local expert. Yes, I know I'm looking at everybody who's probably put that in an ad somewhere. That's great. But if you're not getting the conversions and you've kept that same one for 6 months, you've now spent $6,000 with the same ad there. Maybe you could go back, do that self-audit and say, well, what if I tried changing up the ad? What if I tried changing up the messaging? Every month, maybe I put in a Kate's Corner into there. We just came up with that, I don't know. And I said a little bit about what I'm seeing in the market from the buyers and the seller side. And then every single month, since the market is so fluid right now and things are changing all the time, my ad that was in December and my ad that's now in February probably would have a very different thing to say in there. So that's what you want to think about. Greta agrees. Sorry. Okay, so can you? Yes, you can set a date with marketing or hire someone out to go and design the ad for you. You could change the ad each month to reflect what's going on in the market, like I said. Will you? Yes, because this is not something that's super time consuming. This is once a month where you need to go in and update the ad. Great, keep it. Very simple switch there, but at least they could try this for the next couple months and see how the conversion goes from there. Make sense onto how to kind of think about this? Cool. Okay. So goal setting. Something that I think a lot of us probably need to reset because it's February and it feels like it's the middle of April with the way that this market is going. Go back through. If you didn't make a business plan, I don't think it's ever too late to start, but if you did and you were following up with us at the end of last year, go back through those goals and make sure that you have professional and you have personal goals. This is really something that I think is what drives my calendar every single month. So like each month I have a bunch of different things that I want to get done for our business relating back to my core 4. And then my calendar goes in and reflects that daily, weekly, and monthly. So your goals should be focused around client experience, skills, enhancing your relationship with your past clients, and your sphere of influence. I'm going to wait until we get over to action steps to go into what I was just going to talk about. Okay. Let's go over to the action steps. I think our chat is open. Does anybody want to ask me any questions before we head into this a little bit deeper? Feel good. Okay. So I'm going to pop over to the action steps here, and this is what you guys will all get. And I think this will be really helpful for you. All right. So we're calling this financial mastery. KPIs of money are a baseline for you to understand your true opportunity costs for each day, week, month, and year. First step in the process is gathering and reviewing your financial info, which you already did last week. After filling out the dashboard, we want to take you to the next step and review where you're actually investing your money. So let's kind of break down these 4 areas. So you have marketing. There are different types of marketing, from advertising your client's property, just listed, just sold, all the mailers, print ads, digital ads, you have all of that. When investing in marketing, you want to be clear about what the desired outcome of the investment is. So let's pause on that. This is crucial, and I don't think enough people do this. Again, spending money is very easy. So saying I'm going to go sign up for a print ad or I'm going to run a digital ad is fine. But and even I get these digital ads a lot from Compass agents. I'm like, what's exactly the point of me seeing this digital ad, or what is the messaging you're trying to get across? Again, just saying you're the local expert or you're this. Let's try to change that up. Let's try to be very clear and very specific in our marketing right now. I mean, and I know this across the board, a lot of people are a little bit more apprehensive, I think, just to spending money in general right now. So if you're going to go and make an investment, be very clear about the direction of what you're doing. And that's what I'm doing right now personally. So there's a clear distinction between lead generation marketing, personal branding, and property marketing. Marketing properties and personal branding are an example of non-direct ROI marketing. What this means is it's where the success of your investment should not be quantified transactionally. So this is what I call more like that long game. So I'll give an example right here, which is kind of going into branding, which is something that I did. We signed up with a local magazine and we're doing like an advertorial spread. We're going to have a page in there for like the next, I think, year and a half. Huge investment. I'm not even going to tell you how much this costs because my fiance can't find out. So that's what I did. And I was very specific into, okay, what is my goal here? So you have to be okay with something like that. I'm not expecting to just go and get a lead and say, Kate, I want to go buy a $2 million house from this. This is my long game. So if anyone ever played sports, I'm kind of like, okay, hopefully with this first one, I'm like pulled up from the other court to go play with varsity. And then from there, maybe next year, I actually get a chance to practice with them. The following year, maybe I'm getting on the court, maybe I'm playing a little bit. And then the next year I'm a starter. So that's how I'm thinking about it, just to give you guys an idea of how I'm thinking through that kind of approach. But there's very specific goals in mind so that also after the 6 months, when I go in and I say, okay, should I be keeping this or cutting it? My goal was very specific. Well, if I didn't get a lead and I didn't sell somebody something yet, that's fine because that wasn't the goal. So this is also how you stop yourself from cutting things too early, which is something also that I see people, oh, well, I'm impatient and I didn't get it and I didn't get the conversions I want. Well, you have to also give things time. But if you set your unrealistic goals for yourself too early on, you could end up cutting something that could be absolutely phenomenal for you. Make sense? Different approach to it. Okay. So like we just talked about there, let's go into branding. So social media, billboards, social ads, share your brand, sponsorships, creating content, shooting videos, all of these are examples of branding investments. The goal of branding is to get your name out there, build brand equity in your personal name, your team name, combination. And as referenced, this is not a direct ROI investment. So again, long game here. Lead generation. This is a direct ROI investment. I get emails and I got a few last week too of how to go in and track this. So from online leads to paid social ads, these are investments you want to track the metrics for. What success looks like in this area is that you understand for every dollar you invest, how much you're getting back. For every lead generation investment, you need to invest for a period of time to have enough of a sample size to properly evaluate the ROI of your investment. This is what I was just talking about, giving yourself enough time for these things to sync up. When investing in lead generation, be prepared to track all the metrics necessary, not just to calculate your ROI, but to evaluate the process to continue to improve your effort to maximize your conversions. Let's give an example. If you are getting an online lead, and let's say it's like a Zillow one where maybe they just call you on the phone and you have to go in and convert. If the lead was good, and you could have done something different in there and it didn't convert. So you could have done something different in there. Oftentimes I tell people you're not practicing your skills enough as to actually how to go in and convert. So this would be an example of something I would tell this person if they're not converting, but the leads seem like they're quality leads. You need to have a role play time block in your calendar every single week. You need to be practicing these conversations. So when you really start to think about these investments, these are also the types of things when we talk about how this reflects into your calendar that you need to make sure that when you sign up for it and you pay the money, this is what needs to be done in the background. This is the work that you're doing at the gym, if you will. Making sure that your skills are sharp, you're comfortable having these conversations with people. If something went wrong in a conversation and they ended up not really booking that appointment with you, let's continue on the online lead. What could you do better? Could you have explained the process better? Is there content that you could have created to be able to send it to them if you're not that comfortable saying it over the phone, if you get flustered? So these are the things that have to be done in the back end to make sure that you are maximizing your investment. So let's take this example, leads received, number of conversations with leads, okay, so these are all the things. So leads received, number of conversations with leads, numbers of appointments set, number of showings per client, number of offers written, number of contracts signed, number of closings. These are the things that you could easily build out on a spreadsheet. You can consult someone to build these out for you, by the way. And this is going to ensure that you are improving the parts of the process that lead to maximum conversion. So overall, I think the take you need to be having right now is do not take these investments lightly. Do not think that signing up for them is enough. And coaching. This is also a huge investment in a lot of people's expenses. I'm sure you guys saw that in there too. So coaching is one of the greatest ROIs, of course, out of any investment for yourself. It's unique in the sense that it's both direct and non-direct. So it's short game and long game. For our coaching program, one sale at a $500,000 price point, 2.5% commission will get you roughly 250 to 300% ROI. The math is on your side when you do the work. The non-direct part of this is a lot of what I think I hear most about from people here is the personal growth, consistent routine, access to information, the CSC network. So how much more can you build that out? If you get another referral, if you really want to keep this transactional from there, then your ROI could go up to 600%. I mean, you have no idea how far you could take a lot of this stuff and the relationships you build with agents over time. So what you want to think about here with coaching is if you didn't show up to the sessions, if you're not utilizing the deliverables that we have after this, if you're not time blocking to be able to implement what you're learning in coaching, if you're not taking advantage of the CSC network, you're not maximizing your investment, the exact same thing. So when we go back, and I wanted to take us back to something we talked about when we were doing like my data spreadsheet, your core four, the whole point of the core four was to simplify things for you so that you didn't feel like you had your hand in 16, 15 different buckets and groups of people that you had to nurture. You need to be thinking about your expenses the exact same way, and your expenses should be correlating to your core four. Does that make sense to everybody? Is that like a little eye-opening? Because it was for me. I mean, even like when I went into my expenses, I'm like, what am I still doing on whatever? It's like, it's not, this doesn't have any correlation to where I'm trying to take my business or anything like that. The print ad, for example, that I did has direct correlation to one of my biggest core fours that we're trying to invest in right now. And I know that I'm doing everything I can. I mean, when I like going off that example again, when I tell you how many edits I did to that print ad before it went out, there is not one word, not one letter, not one mistake, not one grainy picture on it. Every single thing is maximized to its fullest potential on there. So I could make sure that this is a big investment, that I was maximizing every single penny out of that. I tell the company they make no money on me. That's usually my goal with a lot of these things. So let's go back to the process really quickly. So when going through Keep It or Cut It, you're going to want to ask yourself these questions again. Have you invested the time? So if you're investing in online leads, have you invested the time into role playing? Are you able to convert these leads to the best of your ability and handle these objections with confidence? That's a huge thing that I think comes out of role playing. Can you make the time? So look at your schedule, make sure you have room in your schedule for this time block. And especially if it's a new expense that you're going and adding in, we're talking a lot about ones that are already in there, but there's a lot of people too who are trying to get more creative and reinvest into their business. Before you go in and reinvest, make sure that you're also not biting off more than you can chew. Because what I oftentimes see is that, let's say it's February, even though the spring market is kind of advanced, because some people get into like this little bit of like a drought, you almost think, okay, let me go sign up for online leads. Let me go, you kind of get into this like panic mode of wanting to sign up for a bunch of things and wanting to spend money in hopes that you're just going to make some, and something's going to work out right there with one of those. So you also want to make sure that you're not killing your April or May self in overcommitting yourself now with these subscriptions. And then in May, when you were sticking to your business plan and you gave it enough time for things to come into fruition, you're not overwhelmed then. And then the investment becomes, kind of a bad one. So also thinking ahead and not thinking in the moment is, I think, something that a lot of agents need to do a better job of. It was a huge shift for me. I was so stuck in the day of if something wasn't going right. Don't worry about today, worry about your couple months from now self. And that's how I like to think about my investments. And then will you make the time? That's that part where you're being super honest with yourself. If the answer is even remotely no, cut it. Because you know yourself very well, and especially agents who have been in the business for a while, you know what you like, you know what you don't. Keep it in there if it's something you can actually commit to, cut it if it's not. And then the same exact thing going down there. So we're choosing the right investments and current investments. Okay, now that I just talked at you guys for 20 minutes, ask me any questions. Was that helpful? Do you guys do you want me to go through anything again? I think it's pretty simple with those 3 questions, but the honesty, I think, is the hardest part about that, is that will I? That was it for me. I'm like, yes, I can. Don't hurt my ego. We all have big egos in this business. Like, will I? Of course I will. Of course I will. Does anybody want to put something in there for keep it or cut it that you guys found out of your expenses? Okay, it's really like a Monday morning. No one has anything. You guys all spend the perfect amount of money on everything. Okay, now sorry, chat wasn't open. It's my fault. You guys are like, Kate, I'm trying to write in here, you crazy person. All right. Okay, Sue, Martha, I will get to yours. Sue, this is a huge thing. So I believe in keep it and cut it, and we evaluate on a yearly basis when payments are due. What does everybody think I'm going to say? Don't do it on a yearly basis. I honestly say if you can do this every month, that's like ideal so that you can really be tracking, especially if it's online leads or something like that. I keep using online leads because I think that's always something that comes into play. You really want to be able to, I would hate for you to have started something in January or February, and then you waited all the way until December for you or one of your team members to say, actually, I'm really bad at converting people on the phone. Well, why didn't we catch that 8 months earlier? So being able to do these check-ins, especially if it's not you directly handling these online leads when they come in, there's a lot of things that you can catch, but otherwise you let the machine kind of run inefficiently for so much longer. Okay. So Martha said, I have not done well with my online lead gen. Rather than cutting, I teamed up with someone who will talk with them and vet them. I think that's great. And I think that's again, being very realistic, Martha, about what you want to do and also like what your skill set is. Not like I actually happen to be really, really good at these online leads, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm not good at and I really don't enjoy. So let me go hand that off. That's all part of leveraging and that's all part of hiring, which we will get into. And we have an excellent expert mentor on here too who can talk about that. But be very honest with yourself. If you don't enjoy it, maybe you don't need to cut it, but maybe you can hand it off to somebody else or hire out for that. Let me see. Run a lean machine. Okay. We've done geographical farming with postcards for a year and have not had any success. Again, go back through, do that good self-audit in there. I would check your radius. I would check if it's too large. I would check how much you're spending per postcard. I would look into EDDM to kind of minimize your expenses there. But the biggest thing with postcards, and I'm sure we can maybe do a whole session on this, is really making sure that your content is on point for that. And making sure, I mean, there's a ton of people who just send out the exact same one. So same exact feeling that I have on the print ad. I get these postcards. That's why I'm speaking more from like a consumer point of view. Mine are a lot better because they're targeted to actually what's going on. So really go back and you have to be honest with yourself. You also have to be open to criticism when you're going through and doing this. If you're the kind of person who's in the mindset of, oh, everything I did was perfect, it must have been something else. Well, that's not going to get you anywhere. So you have to be very coachable in that sense of, for me, I go back in, I'm looking for ways to kind of tear what I've done apart so I can really always be improving it. But you have to be in that mindset. You have to be very open to either criticism from someone else or constructive criticism, of course, from someone else. Grabbing, I mean, my office in, Westchester is very collaborative. I could easily grab a colleague, I could grab my mom and we could kind of brainstorm together. So that's a whole other thing too, if you're looking into advertising. Okay, yeah, so you invest in client care, taking care of your sphere, appreciation parties, that's your biggest expense, but it's worth the cost. Great. So the only thing I would ask you is, how is it worth the cost? Do you have actual metrics to be able to go in and quantify that? That's something I would really look into. Let me see if there's any more. Personal website, if anyone has questions on that, I would think, like, I run mine through Luxury Presence. I would think about that more as like that long term. And also that's such a big part of so many things that I do. When I go and I pitch myself to a Compass referral agent, if they put something in Workplace, that's one of the first things I send. When a client's looking us up, that's the first thing I send. It's in my email bio. That's almost part of like the brand. That's almost to me like taking care of like the front of the house. That's like the curb appeal before they get inside and see if they like it. So I wouldn't think about that as like that direct ROI. Oh, I haven't gotten leads for my website, so I should cancel it. Not necessarily. I think that falls a lot more into brand than people think sometimes. Okay. Cool. Okay. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of questions. Okay, there seems to be questions on postcards too. Maybe we'll tell Chirag we should do a session on that. Well, that is what I have for today. I hope this was helpful. You guys know I can talk fast, so I hope I stayed slow enough for everybody and it was manageable to think about. But this is incredibly important. Please be honest with yourselves. Again, sorry to be the person who makes you guys nauseous 2 weeks in a row, but it's very important. And this is how I pretty much scaled our team like 400% year over year, is by tracking all of this and being extremely, I don't want to say critical of myself, but just always wanting to be better. And I think that's something that a lot of us, we think we think we're there, but we're not always. I had a huge ego. I think at the beginning, I'm like, oh, nothing I do could be wrong. When I dropped that, that's when the success started to happen. So go through, be honest, do a true self audit. Don't keep expenses in there that don't need to be in there. And surround yourself with the expenses that you're doing. Surround yourself with things that you want to do. Your days should be fun. I have a blast in this business, both coaching wise and in real estate. And there's a way to do that while still being successful and having a lot of fun with it. So think about that too when you're going out and building your calendars and making new investments. Don't just do it because it worked for somebody else. Do it because it's something that you're really interested in doing and also getting better at and growing into. All right. With love in my heart. Don't tell them I said that. Goodbye, guys. Have a good one. Have a great week and enjoy the short week if you guys have that. All right. Bye.